Hey there, my name is James Lee and welcome to 5149, my channel where I share my thoughts about business, politics, and some other things. And this week, now that Biden has restored the soul of the nation, I want to talk about the Democratic Party's shallow vision of this idea of returning to normalcy and what it actually means. Of course, I'm being a little facetious with that first part, but really, what exactly are we returning to? I want to bring up this Instagram post to guide our short discussion today. First off, I know that this is only one person's opinion that I found, but I do think that the post accurately embodies how a lot of the Democratic Party, especially their coastal elite base, feels about the election. Referring to the New York Times article in the photo that you see, the caption reads, "Saving this one to show my grandkids. We are on the right side of history, for decency, for empathy, for protecting the most vulnerable in our society. Cheers to a culture of positive leadership where our kids can listen to our president and we're proud of what they're hearing." Honestly, it's a very good post for the gram because I think the emotions are real, but it's not so grounded in reality. It's a nice and tidy historical revisionism. Trump is gone, good has prevailed over evil, the soul of the nation has been restored, so let's give ourselves a big pat on the back. Well, to that, I just have a few questions. First off, what do you mean by the right side of history? Yes, we did get rid of a corrupt president, but is the right side of history a nothing would fundamentally change presidency? You see, there's a little bit of a dissonance in this narrative. Decency and empathy. Sure, I agree, Biden won't be tweeting nasty things about people or talking about QAnon or whatever, but he'll yell at some undecided voters and union workers.
No, it's not. Yeah, you need 100 rounds. You need 100 rounds.
Hold on. Hey, let's keep moving. There's a lot of guys wanting
Why attack Sanders? Why? You're getting nervous, man.
I didn't say you were doing anything wrong. You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack. I'm not voting for you. Well, I knew you weren't, man. You think I thought you'd stand up and vote for me? You're too old to vote for me.
I don't think that was a decent or empathetic thing for him to do. And was it decent and empathetic to smear a woman brave enough to come forward to tell her story about how she was assaulted as a young staffer by a prominent U.S. senator who is now our president-elect? Not only did she herself receive death threats, even journalists who were just doing their jobs were threatened for covering a story that frankly should have been treated with much more decency and empathy. Are we just going to forever gloss over this? Protecting the most vulnerable in our society. I'm not exactly sure who they meant by that, but if they're referring to the African American community, we're talking about electing a president who worked with segregationist senators in the 1980s and 90s to, quote, lock those SOBs up. Or maybe they were referring to the working class or the millions unemployed because of the pandemic. Well, then how about pushing for a program like Medicare for All that's supported by 70% of the public so people don't have to worry about not being able to go to a doctor on top of trying to put food on the table? No, you don't want to go do that either? Or maybe the most vulnerable are refugees at our border. Well, if they cared about those people, why would they appoint Cecilia Munoz to the Biden transition team, a person who defended family separation under the Obama administration, including deporting thousands of Central American children and killing an executive order that would have halted deportations? Should we overlook this as well because it's not so convenient to the narrative that the Democrats are somehow better people? I mean, if this type of gaslighting is a return to normal, a return to decency, then normal sucks. At this point in time, the reality of the situation is that there is no right side of history. There are so many people right now who are just struggling to feed their family. Is this really the right time to claim moral superiority? If the goal is unity, decency, empathy, then we need to also have the humility to accept that nobody is holier than thou. I mean, I make mistakes all the time. We all do, I think. But referring back to the Instagram post, it's actually a huge disservice to your future grandchildren to rewrite history in this fashion. The story just isn't that clean and simple. Because America is diverse in urban areas, but homogenous in rural areas, we don't all have the same experiences growing up. So we have different values and we prioritize different things when we vote. A vote for Trump is no more racist than a vote for Biden is for decency. Both of these candidates were deeply flawed, but in different ways, and how you felt about it and how you judged the flaws is partly determined by your own unique experiences. I'm not excusing anyone or any side in this conversation. The reality is that years of trickle-down economics from the Republican Party and years of neoliberalism from the Democratic Party has led to America electing a corrupt, self-serving narcissist who we have now replaced with an empty vessel of meaningless platitudes who will fundamentally bring about no change at all while maintaining the corporatist and imperialist status quo. So without some deep reflection on everyone's part, the party leaders, the media, the 78 million Biden voters, the 73 million Trump voters, there will be no right side of history, no true unity, decency, or empathy, just more suffering. Thank you so much for watching. This video was a hard one for me to make just because it actually legit frustrates me to see this type of historical revisionism unfolding in real time. So let me know what your thoughts are. Also be sure to subscribe and like the video. My name is James Lee. I appreciate you for your time, and I'll see you next week.